Compostable packaging is one of the most confusing topics in this industry. I attend a lot of trade shows and industry events. This is the biggest pain point that brands share with me. Would you like to uncomplicate compostable packaging? Would you like to know how you can leverage it to grow sustainable sales for your brand? That's what today's show is about. Today, you'll get your most pressing compostable packaging questions answered by the leading industry expert, so stay tuned. Welcome. You've created a product that's going to revolutionize the category and disrupt the way people think about healthy eating. You've put all your love, sweat, and energy into creating a product that's going to change the world, but you're forced to put it in a package that doesn't align with your message. You're forced to choose packaging that doesn't align with your mission and everything your brand stands for. You're forced to use packaging that will live in the landfill for many generations. If only there were a better alternative. Well, now there is, and that's the focus of today's show. Compostable packaging is something that's near and dear to my heart because I too want to reduce the impact of waste on our planet. More importantly, my mission is to teach natural brands creative strategies to help you get your products onto more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers. Packaging is the most overlooked asset that you have when it comes to your go-to-market strategy. Kelly has been a huge help in making this complex topic easy and simple to understand. Let's face it, retail is expensive. It's pay to play. Small disruptive brands are at a significant competitive disadvantage. Over 80% of natural brands fail within the first year. I'm committed to change that. Everything is negotiable, especially in this industry. What retailers want more than anything are loyal, committed shoppers that return time and time again, more customers in their store, and a competitive advantage in their market, and a reasonable profit. Any brand that can help retailers achieve this can leverage it to get better shelf placement, more promotional support, and better merchandising. Retailers would want and need your help to stand out in their market. Savvy retailers already know how well your brand is performing on their shelves. What they need are insights, actionable insights that they don't get from your competitors. This begins with your packaging. Your packaging makes a statement about your brand. In some cases, your packaging is your brand. It should work as hard as you do to attract shoppers and drive profitable sales in the category. This is the focus of this content, which includes several collaborations with my good friend Kelly Williams on this podcast, in many courses, and on YouTube videos. I'll be certain to put a link to those resources in the podcast webpage and on the show notes. As always, I want to thank you for listening. This show is about you and it's for you. In appreciation for your time, there's a free downloadable guide for you at the end of every episode. I always include one easy to download, quick to digest strategy that you can instantly adopt and make your own. One that you can use to grow sustainable sales with and compete more effectively. Don't forget to go back and listen to previous episodes where I may answer some of your most pressing questions. You know, the things that keep you up at night. If you like this episode, share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a review, so that you'll be the first to get new brand building content as soon as it becomes available. Remember, the goal here is to get your products on more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers, empowering brands, raising the bar. This is a live recording of a presentation that Kelly gave at NatchCom in Boulder, The Inconvenient Truth About Single-Use Packaging. Throughout this presentation, Kelly makes reference to several slides. You can see the slides on my YouTube channel, Brand Secrets and Strategies, Retail Solved. Now here's Kelly with Nature's Flex.
All right, so who's Food Tomorrow? What is Nature Flex? This is it right here. This is what we make. This is the only time we're going to talk about what we do, but this is what's called cellophane. It was the first transparent packaging film used in the world, naturally compostable, both home and industrial, biodegradable, anaerobically digestible. This was what packaging was made out of before we changed it. And I was part of that change. So I'm here on a correction program to make up for the sins of being one of the guys that designed packaging that's so incredibly good and over-engineered that a bag of chips can go to Mars and back and still be fresh. Yet nothing can happen to that package afterward. So I'm here to address my sins for doing that. So I'm gonna kind of bring it a couple slides into where you are as brands in e-commerce. So the mountains you see outside, those were formed by pressure. Earthquakes are caused by pressure. And markets are both formed and shaped by pressure. And right now, we are walking around on a 7.0 Richter scale type of disruption. I tend to bucket it into these four groups. So I'll go over them just real quickly. You've got disruption. You got generational impetus for that. Digital intimacy, what I call the small brand explosion. I witnessed that firsthand at my first Natural Products Expo West in 2016. And in walking around, I realized something fundamental. Anyone can become a brand. This market is deregulated. Anyone can get into this space. So that's caused a lot of disruption as well. And you can read through. So that, I think, is the bucket what I would call disruptive forces, things that you have to react to or find a way through it. And then there's also the reinvention side, the innovation side with e-commerce in general, brick and mortar, between mass merchant, specialty stores, now online, curb pickup, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, all of those things are innovations that's causing you to have to figure out what's your position in that. But the one that's often missed, but now is definitely a center conversation, is the environmental impact of what you do. And it's not just the ingredients that you source, how you put it together, but it also includes the package. I can tell you firsthand because we're in the middle of it, so brands contact us directly. There's a panic button that's been hit around the world related to single-use plastics and single-use packaging. So there's a lot of concern around what to do about it. You can't put a sustainable product in an unsustainable package. So I'm going to try to convince you that packaging is the glue that ties all of these moving pieces together. So if you look at some of the other measurable things, SKU proliferation has been going on for a long time. It's actually getting faster because labels are changing, what you put on in terms of certifications. There's just a lot of reasons why every time you go to print packaging, something has to change on it. So it's creating headaches, if not outright chaos. If you look at the commercial reality, I like to say it's not the time value of money, it's the money value of time. And what I mean by that is how long does it take you to come up with new brand ideas? How long does it take you to test those ideas? How long does it take you to put a product into a test market to see how well it's received? And then when you finally decide to go to market with it, how long does it take you to do that? How long does it take you to get packaging to do that? That's opportunity, that's money. Because you gotta do it faster. Larger legacy brands average 1 year to launch a new product per category. Because you just can't take all your ideas to market. Because the way packaging is made doesn't allow you to do that today. If you look at managing the supply chain, we're going in the direction that it's going to be managed at the unit level. And there's ways that can be done. Track and traceability, direct consumer engagement. You start to see the tie-in here with how packaging becomes the glue that pulls these pieces together. But it can't do any harm. If it does harm, if we continue to let packaging do harm, we won't need packaging anymore. That's a very, very important point. If we continue to put packaging that's going to outlive our great-great-grandchildren, then there'll be a point we won't need it anymore. But packaging pulls all of these pieces together. You can form your path with packaging. To understand packaging, or to understand anything really, you can't understand the present without an understanding of the past. And you certainly cannot anticipate a future if you don't have both of those. So I think it's worth giving you just a little bit of a packaging lesson. So to the left, that's an old DuPont cellophane ad. When clear, transparent packaging was first available in the world, that's what it was. We started with general stores. You went to a counter and asked for what you wanted, and they would go and get it. Then we went to grocery stores. Who remembers this? Sticker labels for prices. That was a nightmare. The barcode comes along, changed everything. What's next? You're already seeing signs of it. There's going to be a point to where every single package is uniquely scannable. So we're going to get to that again later. The only constant is change. Packaging has been evolving and changing since the very beginning. We went from glass and metal cans to plastic bottles to flexible packaging. And flexible packaging has a lot of reasons why we see it everywhere and most brands start there. We simply cannot feed 9 billion people without flexible packaging. You can't. Think about that for a second. I can make a roll of printed packaging in Germany and ship it to San Diego pretty cost effectively. Am I going to ship empty bottles? No. So it gives a lot of flexibility. Here's the problem. We have all these benefits of convenience, lightweight, protection. Coming from that industry, we all knew this deep, dark secret. That of all the benefits of flexible packaging, we knew that once you use it, there's not a thing you can do with it. But no one talked about that because the benefits were so overwhelming. We didn't anticipate the impact of this. This is the population growth rate. So what we have is a wrongly designed solution coupled with a population explosion. And it's not just the population. Packaging is growing faster than this because you've got areas of the world that are just not getting packaging for the first time. So it's actually compounded. And that correlates here with the plastics production. Just look at the steepness of that curve. 300 million tons a year of packaging, or of plastics, for which half of it goes into single-use packaging. It's a pretty intense amount to deal with. So my question is, can you solve a plastics problem with plastics? How do you do that? I don't know if anyone saw, but Coca-Cola announced this week that it's only single-use packaging if the consumer fails to recycle it. That's placing a burden downstream on consumers, on municipalities. Does this picture look sustainable to you? This is currently how we deal with what you throw in your recycle bin. And let me tell you, when you put flexible packaging, plastics, in that recycle bin, even if it says it's recyclable, it's not going to get recycled. It's going to contaminate the paper stream because these material recovery facilities were never designed for flexible plastics. They were designed for rigid plastics and paperboard. So it doesn't matter if it's recyclable. And what makes it recyclable is they make it out of a polymer that's very close to your detergent bottles and your milk jug bottles. So it's materially compatible with those, but it's never going to go into them. Because even if you could isolate it, the equipment that takes care of this doesn't go in there. So it's not recycling, and it's also not recycling, because you do not go from this bag into another one of these bags. You're actually just repurposing it. You're making dog frisbees and IKEA furniture out of it. You're not actually making packaging. So again, is that sustainable? To find building and construction products to dump all of this waste, single-use packaging into. And when you see the reports or the statements saying, well, it's all coming from Southeast Asia. It's our trash coming from Southeast Asia, because that's where we ship it. China doesn't take it anymore. Now it goes to Vietnam and other countries. but a lot of that waste is actually our waste. So what do? And by the way, that emoji is my favorite one. I use it all the time whenever my wife asks me anything on text. I don't know. But without packaging, you don't have a $3.8 trillion packaged consumer goods industry. You don't have a brand without packaging. You don't have a product without packaging. You have to have packaging. But what most people don't realize is it's an untapped profit center. It's not actually a cost center. And with e-commerce, I think there's an opportunity to really change the packaging playbook. Because right now, retailers have a lot of say-so in the size, the width, the weight, how many ounces are in your package, because they're focused on how much they can get on a store shelf. E-commerce has lots of packaging design flexibility to design it right, package it right. It just gives a lot more flexibility. So from a design standpoint, I think it gives us a lot of opportunity. So what would you think if I told you this could actually be a physical form of social media? Think about it. We spend more time holding packaging on an individual basis than we watch YouTube ads past the point of skip ad, or watch TV commercials, or listen to radio ads. We look at packaging uninterrupted. Even when 3,000 brains a day are trying to get our attention, we look at packaging. And it's easy to try to fill up. Like, there's so much print on this. You don't want any empty space. You're trying to squeeze an entire story into a bag of chips because you've got a good story to tell and you want to stick it on the package. That's not the way to do it. You do it by making this an interface. So when the consumer scans this package, it takes them where you want them to go, where they can engage with you directly. They can follow your story, they can see your videos, they can find out where the product is being made. And now with all of that extra real estate you have here, here's a novel idea. Sell it. You've got a brand that's popular, offer some real estate on here. Let other people advertise on your package. All of those capabilities exist today. Just no one's using them because packaging isn't exactly a brand's strong point. You don't know these things. Even the big legacy brands, they're not packaging engineering experts. They rely on their suppliers. And suppliers have also been consolidating and getting bigger. 15 companies represent 70% of the flexible packaging manufacturing in North America. They do things a certain way. They want to keep doing them that way. So they're not going to bring rethinking how to make this package to you. They're going to try to get you to go to, one of my favorite Peter Drucker quotes is to do something new, you have to stop doing something old. And we have an awful lot of stopping doing things old to do to take advantage of this. So if you think about integrating print technology with rethinking the design of the package, these things are all possible. And you can do it at any scale you want. You can test market it. You can go across the board with it. Now you have a direct, dynamic relationship with your consumers because, and you don't even have to have variable data printing to do it. You can do it with other technologies that literally, you just take a picture of this and it takes you where you want it to go. And it already knows who you are because that software technology exists. You have 100% control over what you decide to put your product in. You got to think about the power of that. You have 100% control over that. So do you want to put your product in something that you hope gets collected downstream? Or do you want to put it in something that no matter what happens, it's going to be safe for the environment? Because you can't control. So even in a perfect world, you can't, let's say it is recycling, you can't recycle what you can't collect. So it's not about what goes to the landfill. Our problem is we're not getting it to the landfill. It's what inevitably escapes collection that's the problem. I had an example for you. Think about a granola bar wrapper. Look at how light that is. How many granola bar wrappers do you think you would have to put on a scale to match the weight of a Costco-sized detergent bottle? Be a lot of bar wrappers. And do you put just the main wrapper, or do you take the piece that tears off? Think about that for a second. How many packages do you open where it doesn't, that one stayed on? Generally, you're pulling a piece off. We designed it to do that, and no one's bringing that up as an issue. So even if the main package ends up in the waste basket, the other piece may not. And every little piece of that will not only outlive your great-great-grandchildren, but its ultimate end state is to break down into even more dangerous microparticles. So we know we have a problem, just no one's offering a solution. So I'll try to compel you with a few solutions. One would be earth digestible packaging. I'm not saying biodegradable, I'm not saying compostable, I'm saying earth digestible. What does that mean? That means that it's made from materials that are designed to be digested by microorganisms no matter where they end up. They end up in a proper industrial composting facility, fantastic. If they escape collection and end up on the side of the highway, in a river, they will not last for 300 years. They will be digested, short of deserts and glaciers. Those microorganisms exist everywhere. So at least you are putting your product in something that no matter what happens downstream, you're not placing that burden on society, on the community, or on the consumer. Because we cannot control human behavior. Anyone who's tried to probably learned that it doesn't work very well. How do you get 9 billion people to take recycling seriously? Anyone who can answer that gets in trouble. Because you can't. You simply can't. So this is what compostable packaging does in the composting facility. And it does this within 12 weeks by certification for compostable packaging. It doesn't do this. This is a Doritos bag. I don't know if you can see it. 1979. That bag has been floating in the ocean since 1979. Looks pretty good, doesn't it? What's interesting is that was 1 year after they stopped using this to make their bags. Because polypropylene is cheaper, it runs faster, and it made sense at the time. Now we're kind of rethinking that. Did that make the most sense? It's like we missed a very important design criteria when we were out making packaging so incredibly, insanely over-engineered that we just never thought about what we're going to, none of us knew this was going to happen. And now we're going to figure out what to do about it. It's interesting because you think about, so there's one brand in particular that's in the top, I'd say top 10 for candy globally. And they estimate 1.4 trillion packages, just like this, flexible packages, are sold globally every year. 1.4 trillion is a really big number. That's a huge number. They are 2% of that. But if you were to weigh that 2%, they wouldn't even register because it's all light packaging. Yet they're in the top 10 brands found when you skim the beaches and the oceans. That's what you find. So they know that there's really no other option than this one.
All of our NatureFlex films have been through stringent testing for biodegradation and compostability, and they all carry the certifications globally for both industrial and also for home composting protocols.
NatureFlex is suited to a broad range of applications. It offers good gas barrier properties, and coatings can be tailored to provide varying degrees of moisture barrier. Innovative heat seal resins offer a wide ceiling range for outstanding machine performance. And by aiding responsible waste management, NatureFlex helps reduce greenhouse gas emissions by diverting organic waste from landfill.
So this is a picture of our display case in our office in Atlanta. And the point here is, our customers are doing it every day. It's growing very, very fast. And when you look at this package versus this package, you can't tell the difference. In fact, we joke on our table out there that there's one package that isn't compostable, and if you can find it, I guess you'll get in trouble. But there isn't one, but it makes for fun. So I like to say customers really can today. It's not like you're going back to coated paper, you wrap it up and tie it with a string. You can actually get packaging today that lets you have your cake, but the earth can eat it too. You can get that today. It exists. So these are the takeaways because I want to make sure I leave time for questions. I always seem to run out of time for that. You can't sustain 9 billion people without flexible packaging. Flexible packaging is the easiest to escape collection. We almost designed it to escape collection. But if it continues to harm the environment for which we grow the food we put in that package, we won't need it. So maybe one of the future areas of investment are the tools and resources for subsistence farming, because that may be where it goes. And we're just at the beginning of legislative moves to ban single-use plastics. We will not repurpose our way out of this. I've got 3 dogs. I've got a lot of dog frisbees, but there's no way all dog lovers in the world could use enough dog frisbees to use all of this if we were able to collect it. It's just impossible. So let's talk then about packaging as not a cost center but a profit center. When people ask us, well, how much more is compostable packaging? It's at least 2 times more expensive, maybe 3. But the way packaging is made today is part of that problem. So if you take the opportunity to rethink packaging, you can rethink the way this is made. You don't need, today, almost all of your packaging is where you take a film like this, not compostable, like polyester, and you print it in reverse image. Does that make sense? So you print it and then you glue it to all the other layers of film, because at the time, myself, representing the plastics industry, brought flexible packaging to brands. There was no solution to prevent that ink from rubbing and scratching and scuffing. So that was the logical solution. We don't need to do that today. But the people who make this, that's the way they do it. And that's the way they always want to do it. And it's incredibly wasteful, and it starts with printing. It starts with printing. That would be like sending a job to FedEx Kinko's, and somebody jumps in a van and goes to a paper mill and starts cutting out rectangular pieces of paper to take them back to them. It's really, or let's use a NASCAR. Car comes into the pit, everybody jumps, hops over the tire discounters to get tires. They have done everything they possibly can do short of having that car in front of them to do it to. Packaging is no different. If you pre-make the package, you separate graphics, you got to separate packaging design or packaging artwork from the functional package. That functional package determines the properties that you need for the product. And let's talk about those properties for a minute, because most brands don't actually know what they need, they only know what they're currently getting. Because packaging is so incredibly over-engineered. And then they'll say, well, I need to make sure I get a 2-year shelf life. Think about this time last year. Look at how much has changed in 1 year. Why would anybody need a 2-year shelf life on a food product? We've got to stop thinking that way. You can't expect something to last. If the consumer doesn't consume it in a reasonable amount of time, then shame on them. We have to think smarter about what's the right protection for that product. So there's work to be done to figure out what that is, because no one really knows exactly what that is. But if you separate functional package, now I have my reams of paper that every time you go into a FedEx business office, you see those columns of different papers in the back. That's what they pull to run your job. So now this is that ream of paper. You stick it into the printer and you make flexible packaging. That can be done, and it is being done today. So now you are closer to 2x, maybe better than 2x, because you've rethought the way you make it. Now that I've pushed printing downstream, I would say do it on the packaging line if you could. But now that you've pushed it downstream, as a brand, you don't know what you need printed until the project's already behind schedule. So by the time you tell your printer what you need, you're waiting. You're going to wait for it. Unless they have everything ready to go, all they need is the car to put the tires on. They can get it done much quicker with a heck of a lot less waste. Some of the bigger CPGs, they write off 20 to 30% of their packaging spend every year goes to landfill. Because they either bought more than they needed, something needed to change, but they just buy. You would rather send it to landfill than worry about not having it enough. So there's so much waste in the process right now that we can fix simply by changing how we make it. And now I can image on this any way that I want. And I can change it. I can literally print something different every time I print it. And when I now integrate digital printing with it, so let's say you're a brand and you make the same product, we'll say these truffles. This truffle goes into 6 different private label wraps. Typically, to switch, you're not stopping the truffle, but you're stopping the line to change the packaging. With digital printing, you don't stop. You just print it one right after the other, and you just keep running. So you can keep packaging machines running and run as many private label runs as you want. All of those things become possible with digital. You can integrate anti-theft, anti-counterfeiting, fully track traceability, and now on the digital interface side, now you can actually have a relationship with the person who bought your product if it's bought from retail. And now let's think about what else we can do with that idea. What if? So one of the other questions we get is, which there's over 5,400 industrial composting centers in the United States. That's a lot. There's a lot of facilities that can take the food waste that goes to landfill. If you take just what the wood and yard waste and food waste, that's 50% of landfill. So 50% of the landfill is already compostable. If packaging were also compostable, 70% of the landfill is compostable. So why don't we do this? Why don't we take this new design digitally printed package and somewhere on here it's marketed so the consumer knows what they're doing. They're going to hit it with their phone. It's going to take them to a place where they simply validate their information, agree to it, and just like that, you've got 50 million signatures telling the state of California to start subsidizing composting centers to take packaging. You can use packaging to bring truth to power because it takes people's voice to cause change to actually happen. How do you bring that many voices together? This. We have it every day. We touch it every day. We throw it away every day. And that's all the purpose that it serves. It can do more. So don't worry about it being a cost center. It never has been. Post 9/11, everybody focused on supply chain because the supply chain was a vulnerable point for terrorist activity. I think the Tylenol scare in the late 80s played into it too. But everybody went into supply chain as a necessary cost. It didn't matter, we gotta do it. And I don't think there's anyone today that would ever say that how you run your supply chain isn't a profit center. Packaging is no different. Packaging is a profit center. It's not only integral to your brand, it's essential to your brand. And if it's essential to your brand, why are you leaving all of these opportunities unused? Because no one's telling you this stuff. No one's giving you these ideas. No one's connecting these dots. Because you're just lucky to find somebody that can make the bag you need and get it to you in the time frame. We hear all the time, we've got 3 months of packaging, we're starting to get worried. So it shouldn't be that way. There was a guy that gave a keynote a few years ago at a packaging show. He was a CEO of a food company. And this is a bunch of flexible packaging people in the room. And the first thing he said was, the biggest problem with the flexible packaging industry is how incredibly inflexible it is. And it's absolutely true to the core. So if you're going to think about it differently, do make these changes at the same time. And if you've got a big brand, if you don't know how to, don't turn that ship. Keep your ship sailing, go and create new ships, and let them slowly grow. Don't try to steer a ship. Go build some tugboats, get them in water, get them moving in the right direction. And something we're trying to put in all of our presentations. So this is, who's heard of the BPI, or Biodegradable Products Institute? So BPI is a certification body that would certify your packaging to be compostable. Well, one of the things that we started to pick up on last year is there's a lot of really passionate brands who really do care about this, but they don't know what to do. And it's sad to me to see so many brands getting together in little groups and trying to figure out a solution for packaging. When you shouldn't have to do that, we should be helping you do that. We should be bringing you those solutions. And we have those solutions, you just don't even know we exist. We haven't made the connection because there's no industry organization around it. But the plastics industry is heavily organized through multiple avenues with a lot of political power. So what we've done is we've turned BPI not into just a certification entity, but a consortium, a place to get information on marketing, advocacy, education, technical research, all the things that you need. And the cost to join is $3,000 a year. No matter how big you are, how many plants you have, it's just a way to get you connected to the source of the information that you seek and to understand. And with that, thank you.
I want to thank Kelly for coming on today and for all the support in helping our community. This is such an important topic that I'm very much behind. I'll be certain to include links to Nature's Flex in the podcast show notes and on the podcast webpage. I'll also include links to other packaging related content on the podcast webpage and in the show notes. You'll want to check these out. Today's free guide is how to get your product on more store shelves. This gives you several key strategies that you can use to get your product on more store shelves and into the hands of more shoppers. You can get it by going to brandsecretsandstrategies.com/session170. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next episode.